So why are we doing this? Well, it's very important to me is because I and my staff want to make sure that you, our customers, have a complete understanding of the reappraisal process here in El Paso County. And hopefully these meetings are designed to help the public feel more comfortable with their reappraisal experience. And the assessor's office will always place your concerns as our top priority. Lauren, next slide, please. So there are a number of things that we will sit there and discuss tonight. And these are common questions that come into my office on a daily and/or weekly basis. First is, what is the role of your county assessor? Believe it or not, there's folks in the community that have no idea what your county assessor does. Why do we have property assessments? How and when is my property assessed? How are my property taxes calculated? And folks, I think I answered that question about 5 times a day. Why did my property value change when I haven't made any new improvements to my property? Why the value change? Here's another big one. Will my property taxes go up? The 2021 notice of value, how El Paso County's notice of value is much different than other 63 counties in Colorado. How can I appeal my property value? What has been going on the 2018 through 2020 El Paso County real property market? So what has been happening here in El Paso County? Is your assessor's office audited? So we'll discuss that. Then we'll also get into the bones of this presentation of the 2021 countywide residential, non-residential, which is commercial and vacant land value changes. And then I'm going to sit there and narrow it down from the county as a whole to northern El Paso County and to discuss Commissioner District 1 reappraisal, which is up there, of course, in northern El Paso County. And then, talk about future town halls that we're going to be doing. And then we'll go into the Q&A section. Lauren, next slide, please. So the role of your county assessor, he or she is responsible for valuing all real and personal property, including mobile homes, residential and commercial properties, and also agricultural land for property tax purposes. So the assessor determines the equitable value of property to ensure that each taxpayer pays only his or her fair share of property taxes billed by our county treasurer's office. Lauren, next slide, please. So who are assessors and why is my property tax so high? So folks, actually this is a little YouTube video and hopefully this works.
Properties to ensure fairness and equity. After the assessor determines the value of each property, local governing bodies will set their budgets for the coming year. They set the tax rate in order to produce the dollars needed for their budgets.
Steve can talk to me over the video.
Does not affect the amount of property tax needed. The sum total of all those budgets is a set number that has to be divided up among all the property owners. So even if everyone's value was cut in half by the assessors, the tax rate will be raised in order to generate the same amount of tax revenue. The assessors don't determine.
So if there's an issue like that,
they just determine to keep everything as fair and equitable as possible. When you notice a change in your property's assessed value, that change is the result of a never-ending quest for fairness and accuracy. Assessors are graded on their performance, so there is a detailed system to get accurate valuations. First, the assessor looks at similar properties that have sold, their sale prices, and the terms and conditions of each sale. That's the reason your home won't just be compared to the place next door. Studying things like square footage, age, and location helps assessors determine how comparable another property is to yours. Even seemingly small details, like an extra bathroom or finished basement, can result in significant differences in value in two otherwise identical homes. Assessors maintain a thorough database of real estate information to make this process as precise as possible. Changes in value are typically the result of local real estate market sales or major changes to a property. Remodel a kitchen or finish your basement, and your property's value could increase. When you see your home's assessed value, you can rest assured that the number has not been drawn out of a hat, nor generated with anything but equity and accuracy in mind. Long story short, assessors are here to help, not trying to hinder. Their focus is accurate values, not tax collection. The only things an assessor chases are fairness and equity, and they take great pride in it.
Steve, I just saw a comment that the audio wasn't working for the audience, so I apologize making everyone sit through that on silent. But we will go ahead and maybe try and play that again towards the end.
Okay.
Sorry about that, and I appreciate everyone's patience. These things are a little bit difficult as we're getting used to these new processes, and now we're playing our State of the Region presentation. So let me jump back to the PowerPoint and we can continue with the presentation. Just give me 1 minute.
Lauren, thank you very much. I know this is all new for all of us, and I'm used to sitting there in front of a large group of folks, so this is new to me as well, so thank you.
Yeah, and also thank you to the audience for letting us know that they weren't hearing it. We don't want you guys to sit through that, so.
Yep. Well, one thing, Lauren, is we should also let everybody know is we're going to post this PowerPoint presentation into the comments, and so the link would also be there.
Yes, definitely, and we can we'll put it on Facebook as well, so everybody can see it there, and on Nextdoor, where I'm hoping some of you have found the information to join us tonight. So
okay,
we are getting our presentation is back up now. So Steve, we can go ahead and pick up with this next slide. If I can go ahead and progress.
All right, Lauren, let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay. There you go.
So, folks, one question that comes up is why do we have property assessments? Well, it comes down to government. Is the Constitution and state laws of Colorado have established real and business personal property assessment procedures. And folks, let me explain business personal property assessment procedures. Business personal property is a tax on the furniture, fixtures, and equipment associated with a business. And I'll just be very honest with you is I'm not a fan of this tax. And the reason why is I feel that it's double taxation is our business owners out there are paying a sales tax when they purchase it. They pay a use tax. They're, inventorying it and also submitting it to the federal government on their Schedule C. However, I will share with you here in El Paso County and also the city of Colorado Springs, the city of Colorado Springs and El Paso County are the only two entities in the state of Colorado that those monies that are supposed to come in from business personal property is refunded back to the business owners as a business tax credit. So the monies that are supposed to come to El Paso County government and the monies that are supposed to come to city of Colorado Springs are refunded back to those businesses. So that's a good thing. So back to this, the values determined by your assessor's office for real and personal property are used in the calculation of property tax bills that are mailed by our county treasurer's office, as I stated several slides ago. The revenue raised through these property taxes is used to help pay for all public services, including our firefighters, police, our school districts, libraries, fire protection, just a number of different government services that we all receive here in El Paso County. Lauren, next slide, please. So when is my property assessed? So under current Colorado law, all real property, which includes land, buildings, and improvements, must be reappraised every 2 years. However, prior to the Gallagher Amendment that was voted in by the voters of Colorado in 1982, we reassessed every 4 years. But in 1982, the Gallagher Amendment said that we need to go ahead and do this every 2 years. So this process occurs each odd number year. So for example, 2017, 19, 2021, and 2023, so on and so on and so on. So the assessor's office studies the sales of properties which sold during a statutory 24-month study period ending June 30th of the year prior to the reappraisal. So the new 2021 values will be based on properties which sold between July 1 of 2018 and June 30th of 2020. This is very confusing to many property owners in the state of Colorado. And the reason why is because the data we are using does not reflect current market, because you're looking at June 30th of 2020, was nearly a year ago. This can really hurt an assessor's office. For example, is when we went through the recession back in 2009, 10, and 11, our data, which was over a year, 2 years old, we were actually showing increases where we were actually seeing record number of foreclosures going on here in El Paso County. So trying to get that message out to property owners about the 24-month study period is critical. So the values for tax year 2021 and 2022 are sales that occurred between July 1 of 2018 and June 30th of 2020. Here is the concern I have as your county assessor. As we went into COVID, many of us, were in our homes, the latter part of March, April, May, June. You're looking at very little data to see if there was any kind of effect on real property values, either residential, non-residential, vacant land. So we have very little data to go on. So new values are set each year for business personal property owned by businesses based on the information annually submitted by our business owners on their personal property declarations. Now, if there are business owners out there that are sitting here looking at submitting their personal property declaration, I will share with you is these forms are usually due on April 15th of each and every year, just like our federal taxes. However, as we start opening back up, it is my opinion that business owners have far more things to worry about than submitting another government form. And what I mean by that is our business owners are now trying to reopen, still trying to comply with some government, COVID restrictions, rehire, and make money. So they don't need to worry about another government form. So what I have told my staff is we are waiving all arbitrary assessments, all late filing penalties for every business here in El Paso County. Lauren, next slide, please. So how are my property taxes calculated? As mentioned, I think I answer this question either at our front counter on the phone or email about 5 to 10 times a day. So first and foremost, the assessor's office does not set property taxes or collect payments. However, my office can provide the following general information about how your most recent property tax bill that you received from the treasurer's office, which is your 2020, payable in 2021, was calculated, and how to estimate future taxes. So we will go into that as well. So to calculate taxes, you take the assessor's actual value, which will be shown on your notice of value we mail April 30th. That is adjusted by the appropriate assessment rate to determine its assessed value. Non-residential properties are multiplied by 29%, and residential properties, including apartments and multifamily, by 7.15%. This is the Gallagher Amendment that we all voted on in the last election to go ahead and repeal Gallagher. Now, let me share with you, not all of Gallagher was repealed. What happened here is we as the voters decided to go ahead and freeze the non-residential assessment rate at 29% and also the residential assessment rate at 7.15%. That's what that ballot measure was for. So right now, those assessment rates are frozen for the next couple of years. Then the assessed value less any exempted amount is next multiplied by the applicable tax rate. So in Colorado, tax rates are expressed as a decimal fraction of a dollar for every $1 of assessed value. So this is known as millage or mills. So 1 mil is 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a penny. We all live in different taxing districts. We have over 300 taxing entities here in El Paso County, and they are growing. As you can see, we have a lot of new subdivision, commercial properties, a lot of new growth is going on in El Paso County. So many of us here this evening, when we look at our tax bill, some of us are paying into School District 38, some are paying into School District 20, some into School District 11, but many of us, our taxes go to different entities. Where I pay into School District 11 and also City of Colorado Springs. Many of you joining us this evening, you're paying into Town of Monument and Lewis Palmer School District 38. So we all pay into different entities. Lauren, next slide, please. Sorry, guys, I'm back. Apologize, the screen just froze up, means I was talking too much on that slide.
Are you seeing the calculation example, Steve?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. In fact, Nancy's coming down to help me out. So again, okay. I appreciate everybody's patience.
I'm going to stop it and start it over and see if that works for us.
Oh, there we go. All right,
got it?
Lauren, are we good?
I'm good if you're good. Can you see the calculation example slide?
I absolutely do. Okay.
Wonderful.
So,
go ahead.
So folks, here in 2020, El Paso County's average millage or mill rate, as I mentioned in the previous slide, the average is 80 mills. So what you're looking at is, you know, when you use the decimals for $1 of assessed value. So in 2020, the median price or midpoint of a single family El Paso County home was valued at about $380,000. You know, folks, 6 years ago, it was about $250,000. I never thought we would get above that, and I will share here in a little bit where we're at in 2021. So as a result, the property tax calculation for a typical residential and non-residential owner is you take the actual value, multiply it by the assessment rate, which is that Gallagher Amendment piece, times the mill rate, which is a number of taxing entities combined that you're paying into, and that equals your taxes or estimated taxes. So if you look at the first line, here is an estimate of a residential property valued at $380,000. Non-residential property, the difference there is the assessment rate. And as you can see, owners are paying 75, almost 76% more in taxes for the same government services. So let's take a look at the 2021 reappraisal. Let's say your home is increased in value by 15%. Now keep in mind, on a reappraisal, this is over a 2-year time frame. This is the reason why we do it every 2 years. So what we're looking at is 2019 was our last reappraisal. Now we're looking at 2021. So the value increases are not a 1-year increase, it is a 2-year increase. So now you're looking at increasing this residential property 15%, that brings it to $437,000. The estimated taxes are going to be $2,499. That is going to be an additional $325 to that property owner. Right below that, you have the non-residential with commercial and vacant land, as mentioned. They are going to be looking at paying an additional $1,322.40 in taxes. However, what I want to share with you, there is more into this calculation, and we'll talk about how this is going to impact property owners' taxes here in the next couple minutes. Lauren, next slide, please. So why the value change? So in order to determine new values for residential property, including single family, multifamily, and apartments, all 64 county assessors in the state of Colorado are required by law to use only the market sales comparison approach to value. So as a licensed appraiser in the state of Colorado, we are allowed to use 3 approaches to value, which are cost, market, and income. However, due to our Tabor Amendment, for residential property, we can only use the sales market comparison approach. So when valuing residential property, we can no longer use cost or income. So for the 2021 property values, the sale prices of homes similar to yours, which sold between that 24-month study period, as we spoke about a couple slides ago, which is the July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2020, were studied. If the sale prices of those homes went up, then the assessed value of your home likely showed an increase as well. Vice versa, if the value of a home went down like we saw in the recession, then the assessed value of a home likely went down as well. Please remember, your assessor's office does not determine the local real estate market. The market is actually dictated by a willing buyer and willing seller. And many of you joining will probably share and agree is it's unbelievable what willing buyers are paying for homes here in our community. It is not uncommon where I'm looking at deeds daily coming into my office that have been filed with the clerk and recorder, where buyers are getting into bidding wars and they're coming to the table with $5, $10, $15, $20, $25,000 above asking price to get that home. Lauren, next slide, please. So, this is some information I just shared, but we'll go over it just real quick. How is my property assessed for this reappraisal year? As mentioned per the Tabor Amendment for single-family residential, we use the 24-month time frame, July 1, 2018 through June 30th of 2020, and we're allowed to use the sales market comparison approach. For non-residential, which is commercial, industrial properties, and also vacant land, is we sit there, we use the cost, market, and income approaches. So we use all 3 approaches for non-residential property. Lauren, next slide, please. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time, and hopefully the slide doesn't freeze up on me here. So big question, will my property taxes go up? And I will share with you, not necessarily. And I'll explain why. It's because of our Tabor Amendment. As mentioned, your assessor does not set property taxes or the mill rates. Residential and or non-residential assessment rates are set by the state legislature. That's what the Gallagher Amendment is. And as mentioned, with the partial repeal of the Gallagher Amendment, is that the residential assessment rate is frozen at 7.15%, and the non-residential assessment rate is frozen at 29%. However, mill rates are provided in mid-December from all of our local taxing entities, such as city, county, school districts, fire districts, libraries, etc. It is these elected taxing authority board members that we as voters elect that determine their yearly mill levy for their following year budgets. So let's talk about how does Tabor come into play with property taxes. Well, there's a thing called the Tabor revenue limit. And when we're seeing increases in property values that we are seeing here in El Paso County, is there are a lot of entities that may come to the ceiling of their Tabor revenue limit. Let me explain. The Colorado Constitution limits the amount of revenue from most sources that the state government and local governments are permitted to retain and spend or save. The Tabor Amendment, which was approved by us voters in 1992, limits the amount of revenue the state of Colorado and also our local governments can retain and spend. Specifically, Tabor allows the state and local governments to retain and spend an amount based on the prior fiscal year's actual revenue or limit, whichever was lower, grown by Colorado inflation and population growth and adjusted for any voter-approved revenue changes. There's the key, voter-approved revenue changes. The Tabor Amendment requires voter approval for tax increases. Voter approval is also required to increase the Tabor limit. So what happens here is when we're seeing increase in values of residential and non-residential properties is in August of each and every year, I send out a preliminary certification to all taxing entities, letting them know what their total assessed value of their district is. If their value goes above their Tabor cap, they have to lower their mill levy, which is a big part of that calculation we just spoke about. They have to lower their mill levy to get below their Tabor revenue limit. If they do not want to get below that and they feel they need those monies for their budget purposes, that's when they need to reach out to us as the voters, and we vote to either approve or disapprove that measure. So that is what's happening here in El Paso County. Lauren, next slide, please. So here is a rough copy of our 2021 Notice of Value. And I will share with you why it is so different than other 63 counties in the state of Colorado. So this year, I will be mailing out the 2021 Notice of Value. It will be mailed out on Friday, April 30th. And the reason why we're mailing it out on Friday, April 30th, in years past, by statute, it is always May 1st, but this year, May 1st falls on a Saturday, so we are going to mail that on Friday, April 30th. Your Notice of Value, these are mailed to all property owners except for government exempt property. And government exempt property is your municipalities, school districts, federal land. The reason why I do not mail out these notices of value to government exempt property, to me, it is a waste of taxpayer dollars. These folks do not pay taxes. They're either federally exempt or locally exempt. They don't pay taxes at all. So why waste taxpayer dollars on the printing, the mailing, so forth? So we don't mail that out to government exempt property. Your Notice of Value will contain the prior actual value, as you see down there in the middle of the page, the current actual value, and the net change. My office is also providing current year tax amounts along with an estimate of probable 2021 property tax amounts. This is something that no other county does. It is important to me as your county assessor, when I'm determining your 2021 value, many property owners are going, okay, Steve, yeah, we're in a hot market, values are going up, but I want to know the bottom line. What kind of effect is this going to have on my pocketbook? So I am going to include your current taxes that you are paying this year, and then I'm going to also provide what the estimate is going to be based on the new value. Now, keep in mind, this is still an estimate because, as mentioned, is we won't receive those mill levies from our taxing entities until mid-December. So the 2021 payable and 2022 property tax amounts cannot be determined until levy rates are submitted in December of 2021. The notices will also state the applicable rate of assessment, as we spoke about. And again, the residential rate is frozen at 7.15% and also at 29% for commercial and vacant land for tax years 2021 and 2022. Lauren, next slide, please. So if you do not agree with your property value, that is okay. So let me share with you is you have the right to appeal your property value. Please keep in mind, you cannot appeal your taxes. You appeal the value of your property if you believe it's incorrect. So when you receive your Notice of Value, there will be instructions along with it explaining how you may submit an appeal either in writing, in person, or online. When appealing, please be sure to explain why you think your value is incorrect. You all know your property better than I and my staff. If you sit there and if you have a cracked foundation, if things are going on with your property, if there's settling issues, that's information that we need to know. And we also ask is if you're able to provide supporting documentation such as sales of homes similar to yours or information concerning the condition problems with your home, this will be great. It will definitely assist my appraisers in making a review of your value. Now, I will share with you as your county assessor, I and my staff have worked extremely hard to make this a very easy process for you, our customer. Is we now have the assessor's website, which receives over 49 million hits a year. We've incorporated a comper, which is for you guys, where you see all the sales that have occurred in your neighborhood or in your economic area or throughout El Paso County. You are seeing the same data that my staff is using to value your property. And we also basically put everything online. So you'll be able to do online appeals where you're able to sit down at your kitchen table with a hot cup of coffee and pull up comps within your neighborhood and to see if your assessor is treating you fairly and equitably. Let's say you completely forget to appeal your property value between the dates of April 30th and June 1st. You still have the right as a property owner after January 1 of 2022. If you did not initially appeal, go through the appeal process, you can file for an abatement once that tax bill is sent out by our county treasurer's office. So your appeal rights will be completely intact for quite some time. Laura, next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about what is going on in El Paso County, and then let's narrow it down of what is going on in northern El Paso County. As we all know, we're in a seller's market. So a seller's market arises when demand exceeds supply. So in other words, there are many interested buyers, but the real estate inventory is low. Since there are fewer homes available, sellers are at an advantage. So in a seller's market, which we are currently in, homes sell faster and buyers must compete in order to score a property. And I think we've all been reading that in the Gazette, watching this on our local news. That's exactly what is happening here in El Paso County, is we're in a very, very hot seller's market. Lauren, next slide, please. So El Paso County's 2018 through 2020 housing market. As you see here is the median sales price of $380,000, the average sale price $437,265. So you're looking at a 15.2% year-over-year increase, and for the average, a 20% year-over-year increase. Lauren, next slide, please. So folks, this shouldn't be something new. We have been in the top 10 national real estate, hottest real estate markets since, over 6 years now. So the hottest real estate markets for 2020, Colorado Springs, Colorado. So on average, we're looking days on market about 60, median list priced 440,000, and we're looking at a population growth in 8 years from 2010 to 2018 of 2%. So in Colorado Springs, home sales may slow a bit, but by a predicted, negative 1.4% as we see because there's no inventory. However, prices may increase quite a bit at 6.3%. Entry-level buyers will likely have trouble wedging their ways into this housing market, and we're definitely seeing that, and that's why they're getting into bidding wars. So, as I stated, is entry-level buyers will likely have trouble wedging their ways into the housing market with fewer and fewer homes to be found below the $300,000 price point. Lauren, next slide, please. And we also hit the national news here. This is the top 8 national hottest U.S. housing markets by zip code, 80911. So folks, what is happening is, many buyers are going down to security in Whitefield, where they can sit there and still consider 300,000, 350,000, consider that as affordable housing. But 80911 is the hottest real estate zip code in the nation right now. Lauren, next slide, please. So let's go ahead, let's talk about El Paso County. And then after this, let's narrow it down to northern El Paso County. How many properties have sold in El Paso County during this 24-month study period? So the total number of deeds worked by my office, and folks, this was an actual record, 49,757 deeds in this 2-year time frame. We had nearly 1,757 vacant land sales, 3,448 townhome sales, 1,622 condo sales, nearly 33,000 single-family residential sales, 800 commercial property sales, and just over 10,000 were non-sale quick claim deeds that we worked in your assessor's office. So I will share with you, folks, one thing I'm most proud of as your county assessor is we are the largest county in the state of Colorado. We have over 300,000 parcels in El Paso County. What we all need to be proud about, we are the smallest staffed metro assessor's office in the state of Colorado, where most offices are staffed at 60, maybe 70 staff members. I have 49. So these folks are absolutely amazing. And I'll share with you, is I would really appreciate is if you know anybody that works in your assessor's office or you meet somebody, please pat them on the back. These are great people that are doing a great job for us in Paso County. Lauren, next slide, please. So, valuation audit. This was part of the Gallagher Amendment, is your assessor's office or assessor's offices were not audited prior to 1982. So in 1982, the Gallagher Amendment, which was not part of the repeal, is required at every year your assessor's offices get audited. So just like many other private and public organizations, your assessor's office is audited annually by an independent firm contracted by the Colorado Legislative Council. The study or audit ensures that each Colorado county is valuing property fairly and equitably. So this assessment audit conducts a two-part analysis. There's a procedure analysis, which basically determines, am I discovering, listing, classifying, valuing all property correctly? And there's also a statistical analysis. So the procedure analysis includes all classes of property and specifically looks at how the assessor develops economic areas and neighborhoods, confirms and qualifies sales, develops time adjustments, and performs and plans periodic physical property inspections. The statistical analysis is performed on vacant land, residential properties, commercial, industrial properties, agricultural land, agricultural residences, and outbuildings, and other agricultural properties and personal property. And folks, here's a great thing I will share with you, is your assessor's office for years has always passed this audit with exemplary marks. In fact, we are just now going through the 2021. I have shared with the Board of County Commissioners is that our 2021 audit was exemplary, but here is the tight narrow of statistics we have to look at, is the values determined in an economic area, neighborhood, have to fall between 0.95% or 1.05%. I will share with you as your county assessor, I do not believe in shooting values straight up the flagpole. Is this year on this reappraisal, I tasked my staff that we will set values for the audit purposes at 0.97%. So we are sitting there looking at just, basically to pass the audit is we be at 0.97%. So for example, if a property goes up 15% and is at 0.97 or 0.97%, is if we shot that up to 1.05%, you could possibly see a 20 to 25% increase. We don't do that here in the El Paso County Assessor's Office. So we have set values to pass the audit at 0.97%. Lauren, next slide, please. Okay, Lauren, next slide. Okay, so here's what we're looking at, average countywide. Residential value changes, countywide average. It's just not Black Forest Monument or anything. This is countywide. Single family, condo, townhome, manufactured mobile homes, we are looking at a 15 to 20% increase. Let me reemphasize, this is over a 2-year period. So if you get your notice of value and you see that there's a 15% increase from your 2019 value, so what you're looking at is that is a 7.5% appreciation each year. So it's just not over 1 year. Lauren, next slide, please. Let's talk about vacant and agricultural. Countywide averages, vacant residential land is going up 15 to 25%. Folks, as you've seen, the developers cannot buy this stuff fast enough. Vacant commercial land is going up 15 to 20%. Irrigated land. So overall, irrigated land values in El Paso County showed a very slight increase in 2 subclasses and a very slight decrease in another 2 subclasses. So we're looking on irrigated land going down 1% in value. Dry land is overall the dry land in El Paso County decreased approximately 3% due to the decrease in the published wheat commodity price for 2021. So dry land is going to decrease in value by 3%. Meadow hay, the income or rental rate increased 4.7%. So these are folks that own agricultural properties and they lease it out, basically to graze, cows and, just a number of things. But the income or rental rate increased 4.7% and the fence and water expense increased 5%. So based on the rental rate and expenses mandated to be used in the meadow hay land increased approximately 4%. Dry grazing, which is probably a majority of all our ag land here in El Paso County. Dry grazing land in El Paso County represents the largest number of acres in the county. Overall, there is no increase or decrease for dry grazing land here in El Paso County. Laura, next slide, please. So let's go into non-residential. And as mentioned, this is going to be commercial. So our apartment buildings increasing 25 to 30%. We have a number of record sales on apartment buildings that have come during that 24-month time frame. Multifamily units, 5 to 8 multifamily units, fourplex units are going up 25 to 30%. Distribution warehouses are going up 20 to 25%. These have become extremely hot properties, especially during COVID. Storage warehouses looking at going up 20, 25%. Retail stores, 15 to 20%. Neighborhood shopping centers, 7 to 12%. That came down quite a bit because of COVID when we sat there and we looked at getting the income questionnaires from a lot of our neighborhood shopping center owners. Restaurants, I am only bringing them up a little bit. In fact, most of them are going to be staying flat because of COVID. Fast food restaurants are going up 5 to 10%. Many are sitting here going, well, Steve, what's the difference between fast food and then restaurants? Well, there's a major difference. Our fast food community figured out how to operate within the COVID restrictions with their drive-throughs. And as many of you can, probably share the same experiences, if you're going through a Chick-fil-A and they actually have people directing traffic, they had it figured out pretty good. Service garages are going up between 4 to 8%, office buildings 15 to 20%, medical offices 15 to 20%. Now I will share with you, here are properties that I am not touching because of COVID. Industrial manufacturing, storage hangars, mini warehouses, industrial condominiums, taverns, pubs, gyms, no change, and hotel motels. We are not touching those properties. Lauren, next slide, please. All right, folks, so let's take it from a county. Let's talk about Northern El Paso County. So what you see here in this little map, these are all the sales that occurred in Commissioner District 1 during that 24-month time frame from July 1 of 2018 through June 30th of 2020. So what you're looking at is there was 5,568 sales in Commissioner District 1 during this 24-month study period. The highest sales price was $2.2 million. Lowest sale price was $155,000. The median up there in Commissioner District 1 was $450,000. So total sales is just shy of $2.8 billion in Commissioner District 1 during this 24-month study period. Now, part of this table will also show is how many of these properties sold above current assessor's value for 2019. And you will see 16.49% of those properties were 20% or higher sold than the current assessor's value. 26.53% sold between 10 to 19.99% higher. And then nearly 34% was 0 to 10% above the assessor's value. So folks, I know this map is a little small. However, I'm going to go ahead and put this PDF out on the website so you can actually print this and take a look. Because to me, visually, this is really important information for you folks. But also keep in mind is this information is also going to be loaded on Citizen Comper. When we talked about having the ability to sit down in your slippers, have a hot cup of coffee, and pull up what's going on in your neighborhood. So this sales data will actually be online starting April 30th. Lauren, next slide, please. And folks, we're almost done. So as I mentioned, I feel it's extremely important that I reach out to you all to have these virtual town halls. Usually I love having these face-to-face and traveling throughout the community and seeing everybody. However, due to COVID, we're having to get a little bit creative to do these virtual town halls. But as you see here, the way I'm going about doing it is by each one of our El Paso County Commissioner districts. I started with Northern El Paso County, including Monument, unincorporated areas of Northern El Paso County, including Woodmore and Black Forest. So this upcoming Thursday, I will be in Commissioner District 2, which is going to include Eastern Colorado Springs, Cimarron Hills, Falcon, Peyton, Calhoun, and Rama. The following Tuesday, so next week, I will be in Commissioner District 3, which is Central and Western El Paso County, which includes Green Mountain Falls, City of Manitou Springs, towns of Palmer Lake, and Monument. So west side of I-25. And then that next Tuesday, April 20th, I'll be in Commissioner District 4, which is Security, Widefield, Fountain, Hanover, Ellicott, Rush, and Yoder. And then finally, on April 22nd, I will sit there and be in Central El Paso County, including most of the city of Colorado Springs. So folks, what I share with you is if you found this to be interesting information and you have coworkers or neighbors, you know, that live in different areas and you think they would actually gain some information of how their assessor values property in the appeals process, please share this information with them. So Lauren, next slide, please. Okay, so Lauren, I'm at the question and answer, so I toss it back to you.
Hi, Steve. Yes, 1 second here. And I'm going to go through some of our questions. Thank you to everybody who's been participating. I see Commissioner Williams has joined us. Commissioner Williams, would you like to address the crowd real quick while I pull up our questions?
Well, I think the most important thing is that I think the assessor's office and their employees and Assessor Schleiker for all that they do. This is a tough process every 2 years, but he always works very hard to get us the information that we need so that individuals can understand how their assessment rate is going to change and how the value of their property is going to change, as well as how their taxes will change. Other than that, I'm going to leave it to the county assessor to answer the questions. I think that is the most valuable use of our time tonight, but thank you for attending the forum.
Thank you, Holly. Have a great evening, ma'am.
All right, we're going to go back to our question slide. I'm going to bring Steve up on camera here. And we're going to start with an easy one. Well, I think it's easy. I don't know. Steve, do you think it's easy? How will new assessments affect senior exemptions?
So the new assessments will not affect the senior homestead exemption. And that is a great question. So I will share with you is I and other assessors throughout the state of Colorado worked extremely hard to get that funded for this year. The senior homestead exemption and also the disabled veteran exemption program are and will continue to be one of my main priorities as your county assessor. I know how important it is here, especially when we have over 30,000 seniors in the program. So, of course, the funding comes from the state, but it has been funded for tax year 2020, payable in 2021, and I will fight with the state as much as I need to ensure the funding for tax year 2021, payable in 2022. I will share with you also, and I don't want to go into take up a lot of time on this question, but I'm also looking at legislation to change up the disabled veteran exemption and also the senior homestead exemption. So if you would like to call me, this is the reason why I gave you my cell phone number, my email, and also my desk number. Please call me and I will be more than happy to share things that I feel can better both of these programs. And I'm working with our current state legislatures to have that happen. Thank you.
All right, Steve, next question is about Gallagher. It says Gallagher was repealed, so why haven't we gone back to assessing every 4 years?
Very good question. So as I mentioned, is Gallagher, a lot of folks were like, when we went to the ballot, we repealed the Gallagher Amendment. We did not repeal the total Gallagher Amendment. And let me explain a little bit about what the Gallagher Amendment did back in 1982. So one of which is the Gallagher Amendment is also known as the 45-55 split. 45% of all property taxes paid in are paid in by non-residential property owners. 55% is paid in by 45% is residential property owners, 55% is non-residential property owners. That's the 45-55 split. So what happened here in 1982 is they froze the non-residential rate at 29%. That has not changed. But back in 1982, the residential assessment rate was 21%. So the increment between non-residential and residential was a very small increment. But over the past 35 years, dropping the residential assessment rate to 7.15, that increment has gone down. So what happened is the non-residential rate is frozen. But if you think of the residential assessment rate like a bobber in a lake when we fish, is it goes up and down. So if values of properties go up, then the residential assessment rate per the Gallagher Amendment is supposed to come down. If values of properties decrease like we saw back in 2009, 10, 11 during the recession, is then that assessment rate is supposed to come up. However, here in the state of Colorado, we have two constitutional amendments that have butted heads for years. That is the Gallagher Amendment, and it's also the Tabor Amendment. So in 10 years after we approved the Gallagher Amendment, we voted in the Tabor Amendment in 1992. That residential assessment rate can no longer come up without the vote of the people because it is considered a tax increase. The other thing that the Gallagher Amendment did is it basically changed the assessment process from 4 years to 2 years. And folks, I will share with you, this is a good thing, and I'm glad they do it every 2 years. Could you imagine getting your notice of value with the market that we're in, and you could possibly see a 80% or 100% increase in value, and the sticker shock you would see when you're looking at your tax bill? So the other thing it also did is it created the audit. That hasn't gone away. And it also exempted a number of property here in El Paso County. So years ago, your county assessor used to value and tax your personal belongings, such as your dishes, your farm animals, your furniture, your jewelry, things like that. So that was completely exempted per the Gallagher Amendment. So not all of Gallagher was repealed. What that did, it was basically freeze the residential and the non-residential assessment rate. So Lauren, I know that was a long explanation, and I've been explaining Gallagher for the past year and a half. So hopefully it made sense to our listeners.
I think that was great. It's not an easy thing to delve into.
Absolutely.
All right, so the next one is a little confusing. Try and stay with me here. My new construction on my home closed September 2020. Does that mean my 2021 assessment will remain based on land value at 29% for the next 2 years?
Actually, this is an easy question.
Okay.
Definitely. So here's what it is. Very important thing, folks, especially folks that are going through new construction, is our assessment date is January 1 of each and every year. So as of January 1 is what was the status of your property at that time. So if you were in new construction and you're looking at, you had, a foundation in, and, you had some studs up, and my office will go out there and take a look. They will value the land and also the foundation at a % complete basis. So the good thing about that is because valuing it with a foundation and also at a % complete is you're no longer at vacant land rate, which is 29%. You go to residential, which is 7.15%. So it would be the value as of January 1. And to the individual who asked that question, please give me a call. I'd be more than happy to pull up your property record and share with you what we see and what to expect.
All right, Steve, our next question is, what actions or inactions would result in a failed audit?
That is a very good question. You really don't want to fail an audit. And I will tell you why. Is if you fail the audit, then the State Board of Equalization up at the state, Denver, Colorado, will come down and issue a reappraisal order. And folks, this is not a good thing.
Some of these are just
If they issue a reappraisal order, that means your local assessor's office is taken over by state employees. They revalue the whole entire county and reissue out notices of value.
It's a whole different, like.
That's not a good thing, because you have to look at is who is paying the salaries and room and board of these state employees. And take a guess, it's the local taxpayer here in El Paso
You
County.
should be able to.
I will share with you, I do know counties that have been issued reappraisal orders. It is not a good thing. It's basically, again, the taxpayers pay for that, which you're already paying, you know, my salary and also my staff salary. So definitely not. You definitely do not want a reappraisal order at all. But I will tell you again, is El Paso County has and will continue to pass the audit with exemplary marks. Thank you, Lauren.
All right. Yep. Just scrolling through here, we've got a bunch of them. So does the 15 to 20% residential increase apply to all property types? For example, single family, townhomes, condos, etc.
It does not. But also keep in mind is it also that is a county-wide average. We may be sitting there looking at different increases based on neighborhoods. And folks, just like I shared with you in one of the earlier slides, is what is going down in 80911. That market is unbelievable what's going on down there. So what I shared with you is a county-wide average. But what you look at is you actually have to sit there and see some neighborhoods may be going up more than others. Other neighborhoods may not be going up that 15 or 20%. But I will tell you is we are finalizing the reappraisal, and we are going to be having those values rolled in our system from future to current, which is a little assessor lingo to our CAMA system. But we will have that taken care of here in the next 2 weeks as we send the data off to our vendor to mail out the notices of value. But again, that's a countywide average, and some neighborhoods may be seeing a little bit more than 20%, some less than 15, 10%. But on average, we're looking at 16, 17% increase.
Awesome, thank you. We've got one more. Do you assess existing home resales differently from new home resales? Or excuse me, new home sales?
So we do. We definitely take a look at the sales. We look at, so there are a number of things when you're doing mass appraisal. And when you sit there and you do mass appraisal and you're building models to appraise properties, there are a number of factors that come into determining a value. One of which, of course, is lot size. Another one is year built, square footage, gross living area, things like that. So, a new home, things like that. But you also have to look at is we have to compare ranchers to ranchers, tri-levels to tri-levels, bi-levels to bi-levels, things like that. So we try to find comparables, very comparable to the property that you currently live in. So hopefully that answered the question.
And I lied, that wasn't our last one. We've got some more. So let's see. You supported the repeal of Gallagher citing fairness. How did the Gallagher repeal save commercial property owners money? Do their property taxes go down? And if the rate remains the same, how does that help them?
Okay.
So kind of a brief
very
there.
Yep, Lauren, thank you so much. And that is absolutely, and I appreciate that question. And folks, I will share with you as your county assessor, I will never ever support a property tax increase, but I did support the repeal of Gallagher, and here is why. One of which is the repeal of Gallagher. When we voted in Gallagher in 1982, the intent of that constitutional amendment changed dramatically when we voted in Tabor. So the intent of the voter has been changed for over 35 years. The other thing is, I don't think government should be picking winners or losers. And what has been happening over a number of years is government has definitely been picking winners or losers when it comes to the non-residential rate and the residential assessment rate. So as I mentioned, the non-residential rate has not changed at all since 1982. And keep in mind, these are property owners that are basically paying for the same government services as residential property owners. But back in 1982, the residential assessment rate was 21% and the non-residential rate was 29%. So you're looking at, for $1 that the business owners in 1982, they're spending $1 for government services, then this single family property owner was spending 90 cents. What has happened today over the past 35 years is now that non-residential property owner is paying 5 times as much in property taxes. So here's the concern I have as your county assessor is we as local elected officials, statewide elected officials, we brag that we're a very business friendly state or community. And when you're looking at businesses paying 5 times as much and continuing to do so as the rate kept on going down and down and down, it really is not a business friendly thing when it comes to property tax. And also keep in mind, as we go back to the beginning of the presentation, these are also folks that pay a tax on their business equipment. So one of the things is I supported the repeal because government was picking winners and losers. Government should not be doing that in property tax. The other thing is we as property owners need to get involved. This is the time to make things fair. And the reason for the Gallagher Amendment is to ensure we do not pay property taxes that we see on the West Coast or in the Midwest. We need to keep our fingers on the pulse to see what is going on. The assessment rates have been frozen for the next 3 years, and there's a lot of discussion of how to change things. But I will tell you folks, as your county assessor, is I most definitely have my finger on the pulse, and I will be communicating to you, the public, of what is going on. But keep in mind, many folks will sit there and say, hey, my property taxes are going up. Tabor is basically the constitutional amendment that increases taxes, and it takes the vote of the people, which is why I went back to that example of if entities are above their Tabor cap, they're going to have to lower their mill levy. So hopefully that made sense. And to the viewer is please call me and we could definitely talk more in depth on that question. Thank you.
All right, Steve, we've got a question from a retired couple in town. They say, as a retired couple on a fixed income who's designed and built our home almost 30 years ago, paid it off, and wish to stay in it, will the assessment effectively force us out of our home? And if so, how is that fair? It's kind of a tough question.
That I tell you, that this is one of the reasons why I make the senior homestead exemption one of my top priorities. Is extremely critical. The senior homestead exemption was voted in by the voters as a constitutional amendment back in the year 2000. And it was back in the late 90s and in 2000s where we saw a really hot residential market at that time, but not as hot as what we're seeing now. But at that time, unfortunately, many of our seniors were putting their keys under the mat and walking away because unfortunately they couldn't pay the taxes. And some of these properties went into unfortunately, county treasurer's tax sale or voluntary foreclosure. Very sad thing. So these folks basically, property owners came together and they, said, hey, property owners, our seniors need some relief. And that is where we came into the senior homestead exemption, which we passed. Now, I will share with you is the funding, of course, is approved by the state legislature, and that is reviewed annually. But as mentioned, is I will continually to fight for that. As long as I'm, county assessor. But one of the things I will share with you is I want to try to increase the amount of exemption for our seniors and our disabled veterans. So currently for the senior homestead exemption, the amount exempt is the first $100,000 of actual value. So if a property is valued at $300,000, they're only being taxed on $200,000, not the $300,000. So what the legislature can do, and it does not take a vote of the people, is they can increase that amount, that $100,000, so they could take it from the first 50% and increase it 60 to 75%. And I believe now the timing for that is now to allow our seniors not have to worry and go paycheck to paycheck and worry about having to pay their taxes. But that is one thing that I am in talks with our state legislatures.
All right, Steve, we've got a kind of a specific question going back to one of your slides, so I'm going to pull that up for everyone so they can see it again. So this is slide 23. This is about agricultural properties. So this gentleman wants to know, regarding slide 23, how often does the county inspect each ag property for owner costs incurred based on owner receipts? in compliance with the requirements of holding the permit?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
to answer that question is we try to get out there, and I will emphasize try, is again, we have over 300,000 parcels in El Paso County, and I got 49 staff members. And right now I have 3 individuals that work in my land department, vacant land department. So we try to get out there each and every year, and we sit there and we basically look at, is this property, should it still be classified as ag or pulled out? And we look for, has there been any grazing going on? Are there down fences? Because part of ag is you got to have fences up to keep the animals in. So we go through that process, and each and every year. Now I will share is, of course, we try to get at every property, but we sometimes don't. But those go to the top of the list the next following year. We also try to get updated leases. You know, some folks will go into a 3-year lease, you know, a 4-year lease. But yeah, when the lease expires, we reach out and, you know, basically look at as far as updated leases and things like that. So hopefully that answered that viewer's question. And if not, I would be more than happy if you can give me a call. We can go into far more detail on that.
And that's exactly what I'm suggesting right now. We do have some in-depth questions. So for those of you who have asked those more specific questions on those properties and different, you know, personal scenarios, just know that we've got members of the assessors team here helping us answer these questions, and they are a wonderful responsive office. So definitely give them a call and they can help dial in on a lot of these more specific questions that might be difficult for us to just read over this chat right now. So as that goes, hopefully we can.
And Lauren,
Yes.
I will share with you. Thank you for having the camera on you and not me. This face is made for radio, not this.
Well, I wasn't necessarily dressed to show my face either. So hopefully everyone is in their comfy clothes tonight. We've got about 15 minutes. So I think that wraps up most of the questions. Again, there are some more complex ones that I'm going to have some of the assessors teams answer here in the chat instead of trying to read those over to Steve. Steve, is there anything else you'd like to wrap up with?
No, Lauren, thank you. Public Information Office, you guys did an amazing job. Thank you. And as mentioned, folks, is if you have, again, coworkers, relatives, friends, neighbors who you think might benefit from this type of presentation, please share with them. You know, again, we're going to be going down, you know, working from the north side of El Paso County, going south. And, you know, and if you have neighbors that are, that live there next to you up there in Monument and Black Forest, we're going to be posting this so they can actually watch this in Facebook Live, YouTube. I've been told. So getting a little techie here, but I appreciate everyone taking the time out of their schedule. And please remember, if you have any questions, so tonight, tomorrow, a week, you come up with a question, is please feel free to call me directly, send me an email, shoot me a text on my cell phone or call my cell phone. I'll be more than happy to assist and answer your concerns and needs. But thanks for joining me this evening. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.